Lebanon's caretaker Prime Minister is warning his country is days away from what he calls a social explosion. Hassan Diab is appealing for help to avoid outright economic ruin. The world has offered a financial lifeline, but wants a government formed first with a reform plan to deal with corruption. Diab says the global community must step in now.
I plead today to all the kings, princesses, presidents, leaders in ally and friendly nations, and I call on the United Nations and all international agencies and public opinion to help save the Lebanese people from death and prevent the destruction of our country. Lebanon is at a short distance from a social explosion, and the Lebanese are facing this dark fate on their own.
Zaina Khadr has more now from Beirut.
The country is in crisis. It has been in crisis for more than a year. The state is nearly bankrupt, and it's just a daily struggle for every Lebanese. We're outside one of the gas stations here, and you see the long lines. People wait for hours just to fill up 1/3 of their fuel tank. There is a fuel crisis, just as there is a lack of medicine. After people fill up their cars with gas, they go to pharmacies to start looking for medicines, which more often than not, they do not find. And then there's hyperinflation. The price of food, it has more than tripled in recent months. Yet the minimum wage remains the same, and the majority of the Lebanese people earn in the local currency, which is now worth less than $50. And the reason is...
We cannot live anymore. We're dying. They're destroying us. They're destroying us. We have money, we cannot buy anything. We have money, really. We have money, but we cannot buy anything. That's not life. It's a hell.
There are those people who still earn a salary, but unemployment is on the rise. It's now 35%, and research institutes say it is going to increase to 40%. This is a country which is starving for dollars, for hard currency, and the central bank's mandatory reserves is drying out, and the central bank was giving importers dollars in order to, buy fuel, medicine at an affordable price to subsidize these goods. And like I mentioned, it's running out. Fuel prices have increased by 50%. So has the price of bread. So people are struggling. And you just heard that man there. Those who have money and who are able to buy something just can't, because they cannot find it in a country which imports almost everything that it needs.
Well, one of the Gulf countries that's offered to help is Qatar. They've sent the foreign minister to Beirut for more talks. Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani is meeting President Michel Aoun, Prime Minister designate Saad Hariri, as well as the commander of the Lebanese army. Now, during his last visit back in February, he said assistance was dependent on the formation of a new Lebanese government. Now, the World Bank describes Lebanon's economic crisis as the worst anywhere for 150 years. More than half the country's population is now living in poverty. Lebanon's currency, the pound, has lost about 90% of its value since the end of 2019. Tens of thousands of people have lost their jobs, pushing the unemployment rate to 40%. And food prices have soared. A litre of milk, for example, just under $2 in 2019. That now costs $6.60, while cooking oil is up from $1.30 to more than $20. Let's get more now from Sami Nader. He's the director of the Levant Institute for Strategic Affairs, which has a focus on economics and public policy. He joins us by Skype from Beirut. We've been hearing how Lebanon is in crisis for years now, but it seems different at the moment. How close would you say the country is to full collapse?
It's a free-fall collapse. The country is like falling from an aeroplane without any safety net, any parachute to mitigate its shock. And we're not seeing the bottom yet. It's not like the country hit the bottom, but it's a free fall with no sight when it will reach the full breakout. The fact is that the currency has lost 90% of its value, meaning the purchasing power have dwindled to the maximum. The average salary is less than $45, meaning less than $2 a day. If you take, for instance, the average salary of a soldier in charge of maintaining the security, his salary per day is less than $2, which does not cover the cost of him going to his military base. So this is to say what is at stake. It's not only the economic collapse, the economic situation, but the very existence of the country and the sustainability of the state as a guarantor of security. This is what is at stake, and this can have a huge impact on the geopolitics of the region, in a region that is very unstable. This can have, large consequences on the neighborhood, on Europe, because this country is at the southern border of Europe. All the Lebanese, including the 2 million Syrians, 6 million potential refugees. We're talking here.
Before we look at the consequences of this, let's just talk figures. I mean, how much cash does the Lebanese government have on hand? Is its cash all in the Lebanese pound, which is worthless? Does it have foreign currency? How is it paying its bills?
Now the country has an empty coffers. They are drawing what's remaining of private money. They are using what's remaining of the reserves on the central bank. In other terms, what's remaining of the deposits of the citizen. Let's keep in mind that even the central bank has huge losses, more than 56 billion in terms of losses. This is according to the government plan last year. And the facts now, the central bank is the funder of the government, even though he has losses.
So are we talking about days now? Are we talking about days now before essentially the government can't pay any of its bills? It seems like it's coming down to the wire. We've got the Lebanese army offering tourist joyrides in order to raise funds for salaries and equipment repairs. At what point do army salaries stop getting paid? Because this isn't just humiliating, this is a national security issue. If the army is going to stop getting paid, and that could be within a matter of days, one can assume, when's the army going to? Is the army going to turn on the government? Just give us a sense of what is going to happen and when.
The army, the soldiers, are not. We are witnessing a phenomenon, which is many civil servants today are not going every single day to their work. Because they can't afford it. They can't afford it simply, and we're seeing this phenomenon even in the army. So the army is very cautious about the fact. This is why the commander-in-chief has raised the alarms 2 months ago. This is why the international community is up to now trying to support the army convening in Europe, in Paris, trying to support the army with food unit. But this is not enough. This may help on the very, very short run, but this is not sustainable. And in my view, if the liquidity is not injected in the system in a very short term, this could lead to the total freeze of the Lebanese state and all the consequences we were talking about. And the only way to inject today money is a program with IMF, because the international community is ready, and this is the conundrum. The international community is ready to help Lebanon, provided Lebanon does the reform. And up to now, the Lebanese authorities, the Lebanese political establishment is not capable of forming a government to trigger the reform process.
So given the state of the country that it's in, given the challenges that you've laid out, the security issues at play. What on earth are Lebanon's leaders doing? They're in an international game of chicken with lenders. And it's striking that the caretaker Prime Minister is saying, we need your money, but we can't, we're going to impose conditions on taking it. What are they playing at?
I mean, this is the surreal. I mean, this is what the surreal landscape we're seeing. This is totally. I mean, this is totally crazy. Excuse me, because the political establishment is seeing a country sinking, seeing a country that is disappearing. It's a total meltdown, and up to now, it's not capable to breach their differences and to form a government. In fact, in my view, what's behind this apparent conflict between the political faction is the fact that forming a government is still a bargaining chip in the hand of Iran. And it wants to use it because, let's face it, Iran got the upper hand in Lebanon. Hezbollah is controlling the country. He has enough leverage to put pressure on Hariri and Aoun to form a government. He showed that he's capable of doing so when they formed the government of Tamam Salam after more than 1 year of constitutional void. But today it's different because it's a total economic collapse. And up to now, in Vienna, there is no sign of a breakthrough with Iran. And Iran maybe has many other priorities than forming a government in Lebanon. And it's the same situation or the same case with the American. It's true that the international community wants this country to be saved. However, let's face it, it's not a priority, neither on the American side nor on the Iranian side.
OK, Sami Nader, we'll have to leave it there. Great to get your thoughts. So thank you so much for joining us from Beirut.